David, today when you explained the history of The Guardian, you referred to the C.P. Scott values, and among them there was integrity also, and others like honesty, fairness, care for readers, care for community. All of these values sounds relevant today, but in a way also in all these, new developments, a kind of old-fashioned. How do you see them? We put in our project titled Media Integrity, and many complain what it is, for God's sake. We know what is media freedom, what is media pluralism. Why you pick up this integrity? Do you think it's relevant?
Well, I think that the media are like the water supply to a city, and it is very important for a society and for a democracy that it has a pure water supply. And I think it's also very crucial that it has a pure water supply of news and information. We're lucky in The Guardian because we are owned by a trust, and we are not owned by a commercial proprietor or a political party. And these are the kind of owners who pollute the water supply sometimes with their own agendas. So I think it is absolutely fundamental for the media in new democracies to have an uncontaminated water supply. And the only way you have that is by integrity, by understanding that your job is to provide honest information and honest news to the population.
But in terms of having commercial ownership and being focused mostly, if not entirely, on making profit out of media business, is it the ownership, the way The Guardian have it, crucial for the integrity of journalism and content and what you deliver to the audience?
No, in some ways it's okay to have commercial ownership of the media, because in some ways it is better to have a media organization owned by somebody who wishes to make a profit than owned by a political party or owned by the state, because that has very considerable dangers, as we know. So it's quite possible to have commercial ownership combined with the integrity of media and combined with press freedom. But the only way you have that is by exerting pressure on the commercial owners to make sure that they do not misbehave.
And this is exactly what is going on also in the UK. And in our region, we are quite used to have constant debate on the media regulation. You're probably aware that ever since the break of socialism, we are introducing new and new regulatory measures for the media system. But in the UK, you have just the latest developments and the fights of arguments how and whether to regulate exactly these kind of commercial actors in terms of to guarantee they do their job with integrity. Do you think this kind of intervention of the state in terms of regulation is necessary?
Well, it's certainly true that even in a long-established Western democracy such as Britain, the media, the commercial media, misbehave. And currently we are seeing in Britain the result of inadequate media regulation, because the commercial papers, especially the tabloid papers, it has been discovered, have been hacking into the voicemail of everybody's phone. They have been bribing public officials to get stories. And most of this has not been to the benefit of the public interest, but merely to get gossip about celebrities, or about gossip about the royal family, or gossip about who is having sex with who. So we have the same problems in Britain. There have been a lot of debates in Britain about whether if you improve press regulation, it will threaten press freedom. The trouble is that most of those debates have been whipped up by the commercial proprietors for their own interests. I don't think that actually a genuine system of press regulation does threaten press freedom very much. In Britain, what really threatens press freedom is we have very restrictive laws about libel and about confidential information, which make it quite difficult and dangerous for public interest journalists to operate. And in fact, we have seen recently that in the Snowden NSA case, that The Guardian has received many threats from the British government that they will take legal action against it for publishing intelligence documents, although we think it's important to do so because they reveal things the public should know. So there are threats to press freedom, but I don't think a genuine system of press regulation is a threat, provided you live in a genuinely democratic society in which there are other civil actors who can challenge what the press does and challenge what the state does.
And in terms of investigative journalism now, in our region, we are in Zagreb having this meeting. There are a lot of hopes put on investigative journalists when many things went wrong with our transformation and the media system and integrity of the media systems. Do you think it's the investigative journalism which in all these developments in our region and around saved the soul of the media in a way, in terms of responsibility to community, to readers and so on?
I do think that investigative journalism plays a crucial role in any democracy in providing a countervailing voice, because, when the media are controlled by businessmen, or they're controlled by the state, or they're controlled by political parties, a lot of the time what you hear is noise and spin and lies. And the job of an investigative journalist is to cut through the noise and the spin and the lies and try and bear witness to the truth. And that's the way you get a healthy society evolving. It takes time.
But you mentioned today, referring to the Rio de Janeiro global meeting, that it can be considered a golden age of investigative journalism, what we are witnessing these days, especially with information technologies supporting some investigation. Is it really the golden age? And today you listen to our colleagues from the region. Is it the age of opportunity, or rather a threat to them?
Well, the answer to your question is it is both. The age of journalism that we live in the moment is a golden age of opportunity in one way, but in another, journalists are under threat as never before. And this is all because of information technology. Because of that, it is now possible to find things out across the world much more quickly than ever before, to discover the contents of gigantic databases, many of which we've seen are being leaked, to make inquiries of computerized company registries, for example, in every part of the world at the click of a mouse. This means there are rich sources of information available to investigative journalists now in ways which they were not 30 or 20, even 10 years ago. At the same time, the ability of the state to surveil people, and we have seen how the NSA, this American spying agency, used the internet to conduct surveillance on everybody, so that their emails are no longer secret, their texts are no longer secret, even the searches they make on the internet are no longer secret. And in the hands of a bad government or a tyrannical government, that can all be used to threaten journalists. For example, it's very difficult to promise safety and anonymity to a source now, because it's so easy for the state to trace contacts by email and phone people. So both these things are true. There are golden opportunities now, but there are also bigger threats.
Do you see, listening to journalists from the Balkans these days and previously at the Birn Summer School, do you see any specificities of our region in terms of opportunities, threats, talents, anything in terms of investigative journalism, or any chance for cooperation?
Well, I think you have huge problems, and I feel full of admiration for journalists here who work in the face of such huge problems. The media are often, there seems to be a wealth of organizations that are small, weak, and corrupt on the one hand, and the remains of state organizations on the other. It makes it very difficult to work. And, as in other emerging democracies, you find that journalists don't have many resources, they don't have much money, they don't have much influence. So it's difficult to be a journalist. I think it's particularly difficult here, and it calls for determination and courage, more than if you are a comfortable investigative journalist in a place like London, like me, where, to be honest with you, I don't have my life threatened. The only threats I receive are lawsuits, really.
Thank you very much.